will get started, and I would like to say good morning here. A very warm welcome to the Digital Roadshow BUS2BUS 2024. When preparing, I checked the calendar and I counted it's exactly 70 days until hopefully we will all meet in Berlin. In 70 days, the BUS2BUS 2024 will open its gates, and there we can meet. And I've got some information for you. There's the code Berlin 50. You will get 50% off for the permanent tickets or the permanent passes. So this is information for you, 50% savings. So once again, a very warm welcome. My name is Linda von Rennings, and I'm the host today. And I'm very pleased if we meet again at the BUS2BUS, because there I will be on stage and I will be your host, but I'm not alone, as you can see, because I've got some more people supporting me. I think you can see the panel, because the BUS2BUS is very diverse and versatile, and this can be seen when looking at the panelists. Today we're going to talk about the organization, about the status quo, what do we need to do, and of course we also want to look at the program and see what are the topics of this year's BUS2BUS. And I would like to extend a very warm welcome to the many panelists. So good morning, a very warm welcome to Christiane Leonard. She is the CEO of the German Bus and Coach Operators Association, BDO, and she represents the interests of the bus entrepreneurs. The BDO, which is the abbreviation of the German Bus and Coach Operators Association, they also always organize the BDO politics talk at the BUS2BUS, so we will get some impressions about this, and we can look forward to some political highlights. First of all, Christiane, we are very pleased to have you here, and I can tell you, you're not only a CEO, but since last year you've been a member in the Transport Security Council and a member of the various federal associations. I have to read out of this, and you are in charge of communication in this association. Next, the next panelist, I'm very pleased, Dr. Thomas Hubers. He's the head of innovative mobility solutions at DB Regio. I think for more than 10 years, or 12 to be precise, you've been working at DB, and you focus on digital transport concepts, self-driving mobility solutions, and digital platforms. So this is a perfect match for today. DB Regio is also an exhibitor at the BUS2BUS, so I will definitely ask you about the booth and what the visitors will be able to see. So nice to have you here. Good morning. Next panelist, Dr. Stefan Carsten. He was with us last time. He's a futurologist and city geographer. He's responsible for the Future Forum. He's the curator of it. Why? Because he has a lot of perspective, can shed light on the mobility of the future. He has various hats in the mobility field. He was a project manager at Daimler in Berlin. He was responsible for mobility concepts such as Car2Go. He was involved in the development. I'm sure everybody knows this. And he also works in a working group of the Transport Ministry, responsible for local public transport, guardrails there. So a lot of mobility, and we are very pleased to have you here. Thank you very much. Good morning. And now the host, the organizer, I would like to very warmly welcome Kerstin Kube-Erkens. She's with us. We're pleased to have you here. She's the director of the BUS2BUS, and you're a product architect, and as such, you develop new products for the Messe Berlin, and you also organized the BUS2BUS right from the start, and I've known you. I know you're very passionate for the bus sector and the trade show, so I'm very pleased to have you here. You are going to give us some facts and figures on the exhibition. Nice to have you here. Good morning. Good morning. Now, on the organization, before we're going down to brass tacks, I'm going to tell you what you can expect. We start with brief talks or keynote speeches with the panelists. We've got some things. We're going to start with Christiane. It's kind of a warm-up, and then we're going to delve deeper into the details. We need you as well. I've got some questions which I've prepared, but if you've got any questions, please tell us what are you what would you like to know? What are your interests in the bus-to-bus, the bus sector? We can definitely answer your questions later. Please also tell us where you work. Maybe you have registered with a list, so it would be nice if you could briefly present yourself, where you come from, and then ask your question. This would be very helpful, so thank you. So dear Kerstin, let's start with you. You already said the bus-to-bus is your baby, so I can imagine that in 70 days you will be very much looking forward to the trade show. You will have a lot on your plate, I suppose, but a lot of things have been achieved already. You've organized a lot of things. And one thing which is new this year is that the bus-to-bus is going to move, though it will stay at the exhibition grounds in Berlin, but it will go to the most modern hall called the Hub 27. What advantages are there? What is new about it? Well, thank you very much for the question. The hub is very exciting. It's the best precondition for the trade show, and we can perfectly use this space. We are growing, so this is very appropriate. And it is also very practical because it can be reached easily with local public transport, because the commuter train station Messe Süd is very close. We are very pleased about the hub. We also have an integrative concept. We are characterized by being a trade show and also having a program, and the hub provides us with a possibility to mix the exhibition with the fora, so that the core is represented, which is networking. So we are very pleased about it as a team. We are in this hall as a team for the first time, and we are very pleased to have this space. It will be a great experience. Thank you very much. Well, you kind of get off the train and you're almost inside the hub already. I don't know if you in the live stream have been in the Hub 27. It's a beautiful building, very spacious. I'm very much looking forward to it and to see what you will do at the bus-to-bus. But this is not the only point which is new, I suppose, because 2 years have passed. It's a new location, but I'm sure that there are a lot of other new things. Maybe you can talk about it. What has changed? What is new compared to the last time? Well, the mobility sector is very important. It's characterized by a dynamic development. So we need to include this into the program. We will have the Future Forum, for instance, but I don't want to anticipate what Stefan Carsten is going to say. And we will have a lot of subjects to be broached, but in the exhibition show, there are new things, innovative drives, more digitization, more coaches also being involved. It's all very dynamic. There are a lot of innovation. So there are so many topics. Stefan, I suppose you will agree, Christiane as well. We've got the problem to say, okay, we will have to cut now. We've got a full program. We can't include anything else. The problem is not that we don't have enough topics. This can be reflected in the exhibition as well. There are well-known exhibitors with us again, having been there at the beginning: Daimler, MAN, Iveco, Autocar, Flixbus, and new players as well, coming from the bus manufacturing side, NCV, Trimonia, for instance, to give you but a few names. But system technology, digitalization, ticketing, transport, guidance, management systems, etc., and fresh travel, all these are important topics with new players. So this means that the program is very exciting. And I said that the demand is high. Since there are new innovative topics, the demand is really high, and this is why we decided to have not only the Future Forum stage, but there's another stage called Deep Dive. And here there will be the possibility to check the Future Forum. This is the meta level, and this is smaller, this is more interactive, and there we have a whole bunch of topics. I can't go into all the details now, but I would like to invite all the participants to check out the website. You will be able to see the program gradually there, and then you will always be up to date. But you're sure that 2 days are enough? I think you could have a whole week, couldn't you? Well, it will be ambitious. I can only recommend to go there because what Bus2Bus is characterized by is this networking. It's great fun to go to the event, and maybe I can talk about networking for a little while. I am very pleased that we've got two new formats, two networking formats in the program. And we closely cooperate with them. It's mobility. They provide content. They will be there. They will enrich our program. But then there is the Mobility Network, which is an association of a lot of young people in the field of mobility. They will be there. They will co-design the program as well. And well, there are the well-established players, there are new players, they will be brought together at the trade show, and we are really looking forward to it. And there will be a new network on the Bus2Bus, but I'm not allowed to reveal that right now. Well, we need some cliffhangers, of course. This is always positive. Yes, we need to raise the tension. We've got some days left. It sounds very exciting. Now, I would like to ask you about your role. You're the director. It's your trade show. You organize it with a big team, of course, but at the end of the day, it's your baby. Now, if we think about it, let's suppose it's end of April, early May, Bus2Bus 24 has taken place. What would you wish for? What are your expectations and your wishes so that at the end you can say it was really a big success? Well, on the one hand, we do it in a team. We've got a core team, but we've got all the partners we're cooperating with. It's like a Bus2Bus family, and I hope that this spirit will be conveyed, that people can feel it's not only a specialized trade show, which is essential, of course, but all the surroundings, this transfer of knowledges and networking possibilities, fun. We will going to have great parties, that this character can be felt. And we would like to roll out the red carpet to the bus sector. We will have so many things, local public transport, long haul, etc. And I think this design is really unique, and you can't compare to anything else. And I hope that the participants who will be there will also feel and perceive it. I can only tell you, if you're watching, you don't have a ticket yet. I hope that I've convinced you. Please be fast. And because the future night tickets are few and far in between, which are left, so I can only recommend be fast in getting one. Okay, you've definitely convinced me, but I'm sure you've also convinced some others because the program is really so diverse. As you said, long haul, local public transport, AI, self-driving possibilities, so many things are included. But I don't want to anticipate this, Stefan, because I know that you will talk about this definitely. And all of this included in one ticket. So it's really worthwhile, and we will be looking forward to it. So first of all, thank you, Kerstin. One thing I would like to add, what is very special about Bus2Bus is innovation, but politics as well. Mobility is a very political and social topic. There are general conditions which are important, which need to be adapted sometimes. And there are discussions. This can be felt at the Bus2Bus, and this is the special character about the event. This is the perfect transition to Christiane. We hadn't agreed on this, but perfect. It's a mix between business and politics. So thank you very much to you, Kerstin. Christiane, let us talk about it. Let us go into the details. We are going to talk about politics and bus companies. I'm interested in this. Maybe at the very beginning, you represent the bus entrepreneurs and companies in Germany. What is your take on the Bus2Bus? Why is it such an important?
Linda, thank you very much for the kind introduction. Maybe I would like to link up to what Kerstin has just said, because the Bus2Bus is unique indeed. The concept, well, we are trying to present it here with all its varieties, but the concept is special indeed. And in my point of view, that probably turns it into a unique trade fair on a European or even international level. And this is to do with the fact that, on the one hand, there are aspects focusing on transformation, the transition in which we as bus and coach operators find ourselves. But it is also true for powertrain technologies or the digital transformation, but it also covers topics such as a lack of drivers. This is something that we feel on a daily basis. Of course, that's a political issue, but it is also connected to technology, to innovation, to the spirit of our times, the ideas that come out of our sector by means of support to the companies. And this is a mix. It's a mix of topics directed at the future and topics that are very tangible. You can climb into a bus, you can take a look at it, you can even drive it. For example, last time I took a bus for a spin and, well, I don't really have a driver's license that covers buses, but nevertheless, that was really interesting, and you don't get that chance too often. Or sometimes delegates of the German Bundestag visit the trade fair, and finally they get to touch and feel of what it's like to be a bus driver, for example. So that gives them a better idea of that. And then there is a political side to it because the transition, the transformation that we find ourselves in, it's not something that we're just hit by, but we're a part of it on the level of our day-to-day work, but also on the level of day-to-day politics. And this connection, this mutual understanding of what the problems are, where support is needed, this, I believe, can be found in this concept. Politicians love to visit that trade fair, which is great for us, and we actually do a bit of advertising to get them here to raise their awareness for bus-related topics and to show them what a great mode of transport a bus actually is, because it's a sustainable mode of transport. And we are very, very happy that once again the Minister of Transport will visit us, but also secretaries of state or people who will organize a political discussion because we're a federal country. Everything has to go hand in hand. So it's not just politics in Berlin, but it's also regional politics that is closely involved. And we actually had a lot of invitations that were accepted to join panels. And that shows us that the concept pays off, that people come here to talk to each other, to detect problems, to discuss them, to point towards possible solutions. It can be a software that I can purchase and that helps me to solve problems in my company, or on the other end of the range, maybe political decisions have to be made in order to make our lives easier. And this also helps to remedy problems. So it's a very, very special concept. It's very hard to explain. So I guess you just have to be there and experience it firsthand. I think 2017 was when the first BUS2BUS took place, and we had a rough idea of where we wanted to go, but it was very difficult to explain what we really had in mind because it is so complex and intertwined. And well, so apologies for advertising, but I think everybody who visited the fair last time know what I'm talking about, and those who weren't will know after this edition, hopefully. Thank you very much. Exactly. Maybe they can come there and take a spin in a bus, and you really have explained to us what a great experience a bus can be. You actually have mentioned many, many items already, federal or regional politics, and you have mentioned that many invitations were accepted. Could you probably say a few words about the BDO political talk? What are the highlights? What are you looking forward to? What's the agenda? Well, as I have just said, there are so many topics on the table, and we actually have to pick what we want to discuss. But one very important issue for us is the digital transformation. We called it a data treasure. I've already mentioned that. We have the German-wide 49 euro ticket, which is a digital ticket, which was the desire of the political sector to make this a digital ticket, and it comes with a wealth of opportunities for the future of public transport as a ticketing system, but also as a means of fairly distributing the income, because we have to find a way to share the income, how the money comes to the companies, because it's a nationwide ticket for the first time ever in German history. So it's really new grounds. And of course, behind the scenes, a lot of work has been done on the nationwide ticket for Germany. So it's easy to buy and to use. I've got one myself, and I'm very happy about that. But behind it, behind the scenes, so many infrastructure issues are involved. How can you use a digital ticket? What does that mean? And that's something on top of the classical ticket system, and there's a benefit to it. But actually, some people shy away from that because, in a way, we're not so modern in public transport. Sometimes we have a pay in, pay out system, so you enter the bus and then the device knows how to actually pay for the ride. If it's 120 or 130, that's done by the ticketing system. And the 49 euro ticket for Germany actually is like a blueprint for that, because we have thousands of subscriptions, and you get in, you get off, and then you can evaluate that. And actually, I think that still means a lot of work for us, because in Germany, systems like that are not in place yet. And public transport actually lags a little bit behind when it comes to a digital transformation. This is also the case in other sectors of Germany. But we hope that this German-wide ticket, this Germany-wide ticket that is in place now, can be used as an opportunity, which is why I am so happy that both federal and regional politicians and representatives of the industry have joined the panels, because maybe that can help us to think about the future, and it can be an incentive to bring things forward. That's one point. And then maybe just a few words about the next panel. This is on autonomous driving. On the first bus to bus, we actually asked a question during a panel as to when the first autonomous bus will drive through Berlin. And we heard something like 2035. And that was the statement back then, and we all believed that. And now it's 2024, and we realize, wait, it's not going to happen so fast. So what we do think is difficult as an association of German bus and coach operators is the connection between autonomous driving and the discussion on drivers and the lack of drivers, because we all know that we will be needing drivers in buses for many, many years to come. Maybe some things will change. Maybe the drivers do not have to hold the steering wheel all the time, but especially in coaches and tourism, this is where these people are also in charge of other things. They're tour guides, they look after the passengers, so they will have to be there. Maybe their job will change, but we will need drivers. Of course, it's interesting to think about autonomous driving because the technology is interesting. But if we connect this in a smart way, if we bring this into the next decade in a smart way, then it can be a benefit. And this will be the topic of the second panel, with different people, panelists coming from the technical side, experts, but also representatives of companies. And I'm already looking forward to an interesting discussion. And last but not least, something I'm very proud of and happy about is that there is a panel in the German Bundestag, a committee, and all of the participants will visit the bus-to-bus and they will discuss the future of public transport. We will discuss funding, what's possible there and what isn't, because we all know that the Federal Constitutional Court has put a halt on some things, and we will have to come up with new solutions. So it will be interesting to find out how the political sector reacts and what kind of solutions they will bring on behalf of the German Bundestag. That's our third political panel. So you can see that all these topics are embedded in the technical trade fair. And of course, we will hear more about the Future Forum, where some issues will surface again. Well, so I'm looking forward to that immensely. And I have already talked to our regional associations, and they are preparing their trip with the coach because they will travel there by bus or coach naturally. And they're already making plans and looking forward to meeting each other. And of course, that also includes the evening events and networking and mingling in between all the presentations. That's also on top of the list. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to you. That's precisely what's so special about it, the mix of technical incentives. You've just mentioned important topics, but also you have time to talk to people, to do a bit of networking. And I think that's precisely the mix that's so great and so much fun, which is why I am also looking forward to the topics that will be discussed politically, but some topics will be discussed elsewhere. So, Stefan, with a view on the Future Forum, I would love to hear from you what visitors can expect and what the highlights of your forum are. Well, thank you very much. I have terribly fond memories of the Future Forum because it was a great event. But actually, I had difficulties presenting the day after. But nevertheless, thank you very much, Linda, Kerstin. That was all great. Great to hear from you. It's so great to see and hear what you're all putting together. And for me, from the point of view of somebody doing research on the future, I have the feeling that the future is here. Well, we've been talking about mobility and digital transformation for 15 years, sustainable mobility. We've been discussing autonomous driving forever. And well, maybe we won't see an autonomous bus in Berlin next year, but we do see autonomous concepts in many cities of the world, and it's just a question of time when we will see them in Germany too. So, Linda, I will keep this brief. There are 6 focal points that we have defined for our forum, and this is what we want to discuss in this dynamic world of the future. This is what we will sketch out. Before the official opening by the Federal Minister of Transport, we will hear a keynote of Professor Justus Hauptke. We discussed it this week, and we are really looking forward to the topic of how modern public transport can be funded, because it's an issue that's also discussed in the antitrust committees. But we see deregulation in the bus sector today, also for long distance trips, and we will hear many, many examples of the conditions for a new mobility system. And of course, on the other hand, there are also challenges. And on the second day, we will start with a keynote. The keynotes will sketch out a wider frame, a wider background, and we will hear a presentation by an expert on AI. And as we have heard before, autonomous driving is one of the focal points of this year. Yes, drivers will be needed behind the wheel for many more years. And yes, we still have a shortage of bus drivers, not only in Germany, but in many other parts of the world, as we have a lack of truck drivers too. So assist systems, could be of help, and we can try to use them to remedy or mitigate this lack of drivers. And of course, we will talk about the powertrain transition of electric powertrains, or how open technologies actually are. And we will see that there are many promising approaches. Now, more and more diesel applications are pushed to the sides. It is an advantage today, but the question is how long and what are the perspectives?
The various colleagues are going to talk about this, coming from Flixbus and others, how they see the perspective regarding the users and the manufacturers. This will be definitely a very exciting panel, which will take place directly ahead of the official meeting with the Federal Minister of Transport. And I think the colleagues will be able to meet there. We're talking about modern local public transport. We will definitely shed light on the international perspective together with the city of Berlin. We will hear about Paris and how they have managed to have this cultural transition in a city and of an automobile nation. This is something which does not affect the rural areas, but it's, well, Paris is the city with most investments. They have managed to enhance quality of life, for instance. And representatives from Paris will be on the panel so as to talk about the role of the possibly most modern bus fleet. We were talking about autonomous buses and coaches as well. That is long-haul buses, local public transport buses in the rural areas. Together with Patrick Ayert, he's the global partner of Mobility of Hogan Lovitt, one of the major law firms of the world. We are pleased to be able to talk to him. He is in Beijing today, tomorrow in Washington, and then 2 days later in Brussels. He will not only talk about autonomous driving, but he will also talk about the various political players, and we will talk about product liability in the legal regulations and how can we formulate the legal regulations so that they are good and will not harm anybody. One of my pet subjects is the following one. I'm very enthusiastic. We are going to talk about mobility hubs in the cities and also in the bus depot, in the motorway service areas as well. It's not always the panacea for the long trips. It's about new designs and concepts. Buses are the best tool because it's the most sustainable mode of transport against the backdrop of climate change. We need concepts going beyond driving a bus. It's about the time before boarding a bus and afterwards. So it's an important topic. We will talk about sustainability and greenwashing and green marketing and how buses can position themselves. And eventually we will talk about the opportunities, design as a sustainability, digitality. What does it mean? What are the examples of young players of the bus sector? St. Peter's will be on stage. I will talk to Stefan Schöner, Vice President Design of MAN, and we'll talk with Luca Bortolani, who won the Fresh Travel Award 2 years ago, and he will present what happened in the past couple of years. So you can see there are a lot of different perspectives and topics. To us, it's important to always have bus experts and bring them together with external experts, because this is the core of mutual understanding, so as to seize the opportunities together. It is only possible in this interplay of various people. Well, we can feel that you are looking forward to the presentations. That's great. You are the curator of the program, and I think you need this passion to say, this is super, this is brilliant, exciting. It's kind of contagious to feel your passion for this. You mentioned a lot of main topics. You gave us a good impression. Maybe one brief second question. Now, you work in many fields of new mobility. What do you think is so exciting about buses? Well, I don't know whether we will manage this time to talk about smart as a bus, but it's this versatility that's really fascinating to me. 3 years ago, I was able to give the keynote for the digital bus-to-bus, and back then I said, the vehicle concepts of the future are important, irrespective of whether it's a small bus, a shuttle, or a city bus, a school bus, or a coach. We will see new on-demand offers which will not question the classical concepts, but they will be a challenge. They will develop it further. And there are so many multifaceted layers, and the bus is at the point connecting these various social topics. So I think we should shed light on this so that we can make sure that the Verkehrswende or the transition in transport becomes a full transition in mobility. So thank you very much for your keynote and for your praises to the buses. We've got the first question coming in already. So I would like to ask you to continue raising your questions, of course. But first of all, Thomas, I would like to ask you for your presentation. My first question to you is the following. Deutsche Bahn, well, you think about rails, about trains, first of all. Still, there are road-bound mobility solutions. What is your vision about that? First of all, thank you very much for being allowed to be here once again, and thank you very much for the question about our vision. As a matter of fact, there is this division. Deutsche Bahn only does railbound rolling stock, or they only do buses. But as a matter of fact, in our vision, we've managed to get free from this burden. We don't have a vision about our products, but we designed a vision which, strangely enough, is rotating around customers and customer use. If customers have a mobility need, they don't really mind what kind of mode of transport they use, railbound transport or buses, etc. The customers have a mobility need, and they want to meet these requirements with their own passenger car as well. This is why our vision regarding road transport is linked to the rail-bound solution, of course. We want to have a seamless possibility of travel. We do not want to have this box thinking, what is better, rail-bound transport or road transport? It's rather about how can we create the best mix and combination so as to enhance efficiency for the users. But we shouldn't be altruistic as a transport company. What is best for the consumers and users is the best for us as well. If we manage to do that, it's fine. If there are various modes of transport, we shouldn't cannibalize one another, but we should create something together. Then everybody can benefit from it. Hence, this integrated approach, which does not use islands of on-demand transport, which is not characterized by a fossilized structure, but it is rather a meaningful combination of the best solutions of all these modes of transport. Because the users do not want to purchase a product. Mobility is not a discounter or a supermarket. Consumers want to have mobility, and it is there where we try to design it in the best possible manner by starting with planning, accessibility, so as to create an integrated product which is revolving around mobility for consumers and users. So this is the user perspective. I can underscore this because I want to get from A to B and I don't want to drive in a car, but I can rather read a book whilst traveling. This is a very important point. This moves me on to my second question. If I, for example, live in a village, there are 20,000 inhabitants, there's a railway station, there are buses in my town, but I used to live in Berlin. This is all much smaller there. Now, with regard to urban transport and rural transport, what about smart solutions? How can there be a bridge between the two? Because very often in the rural areas, I have to say, I've got a car in front of my house as well. In the city, you don't need it so often. How can you bridge this gap? Well, the transport between the rural areas and the cities is the ideal showroom for this integrated mobility and for showing this necessity. Because only in very few cases you manage to travel from your home in a village to the city with only one mode of transport. You need a very good real estate agent to find a house like this situated in such a way. But in this mobility between cities and the rural areas, it can only work out if you've got products dovetailed with one another, which are easily accessible, with the effect that at the moment it's not working perfectly. And the mobility from the rural areas into the city, if you think about it, those who have to travel every single day, the commuters, this is really a big problem for the cities. How to solve this? It's not that people are convinced about their cars so that they drive with their own passenger car, but it's rather that it's necessary. So there it's particularly important that we design it. One particular element which we're addressing at the moment are mobility hubs. This was mentioned in the urban areas, and hubs and junction points are important. But mobility is kind of a starting point in the rural areas. So mobility in the rural areas is not as obvious, as evident, as visible as in the city, where it is being taken for granted that you've got an underground station also providing sharing offers or bus connections. So these services exist. It's obvious in the cities. A central hub in the rural areas where two bus lines meet and where there's on-demand transport. This is not something you see, it's not visible. So it's not evident, it's not easily accessible, and thus it's not efficient. And this is why we've dedicated ourselves to these mobility hubs, so as to enhance the value, so as to enhance the efficiency and to make sure that this is visible. So that the access to the mobility system can be granted. Thank you very much. So hope for me in my little town. So one last question before we're going to start with the discussion. Now, Christiane earlier said you can sit in a bus at the BUS2BUS. You might go around a little bit even. Stefan, I think, mentioned the party. I can celebrate there at the trade show. I can do networking. I can listen to the stage program. Now, if I walk around in the exhibition ground, what will I see? What can I expect? This is what I'm interested in. So you mean you don't only want to go there because of the parties? No, well, it's fine if you go there only for the parties. Might be a great one, but I'd be interested in what you've got on show. Well, in the spirit of the targets and objectives I've just mentioned, we prepared something from the user perspective, which is a very exciting new feature. It's a voice spot, which makes it possible that you can look at on-demand services. You can use your telephone. You can book it via telephone and digitally, because this is also a certain bottleneck. In peak times, there's a bottleneck when a lot of people book via phone, and digital bookings via mobile smartphones. This is something, well, Which is not going down well with the users. The users are not yet willing to do this. They don't want to use 100% their smartphone. So this is a very exciting AI based voice bot solution. You phone and then you get guided through. It's not really one product, but there are several products combined together for the users. That's the show bus, which we've got as well. And hopefully, we can show that we don't only think in terms of our products, but in a dialogue with the users and with the carriers, with all the partners, we can discuss this together, whether this is a good approach, whether we're on the right track, and how we as a sector can do better, what we can improve further.
So that's a very important and essential element. And as I've said before, this is not only about users to transform digitally for the users, but also to transform for us as a company. And we have to be ready, we have to develop efficiently. And this could be an interesting new solution like the one of Yuki Route, which is a specifically adapted navigation system for buses. And that helps us to get the best out of our transport mode. And with Steppers, we have developed a product that we do not use in transport, but as a sector so that we can increase our capacities and also this helps us to get a better grasp on our necessities. It sounds as if I should visit you and take a look at that and see everything live and in reality. By the way, thank you very much for your little presentation, and I suggest we have the discussion now, because now we've heard different points of view on the bus to bus, and now we would like to bring it all together, because this is what we'll do in 70 days. One question has already been posted on the chat, and I would like to use the opportunity to invite you to ask more questions. There is one that we have received, and that's the question of recruiting. Christiane, you have also touched upon the topic of the lack of skilled workers. It's a topic that we deal with everywhere in our sector. Now, the question is, are there activities on recruiting? Is that a topic that you have also considered in planning the fair? Maybe, Kerstin, that's a question for you, but of course, it's a question for everybody here. Oh, I'm happy to go first, Christiane. And of course, for our association, that's a topic too. And definitely it's a topic that we mention in communication and in our public relations. For example, how do you increase the attractiveness of your company, and how do you get the information to the people who could choose a career? What are the career opportunities like in the first place? And I think, well, a lack of skilled workers, that's the big topic for all of us. There is no way around that. Okay, thank you. Christiane, would you like to add something? Well, yes, happy to, because actually I was just part of a round table at the German Bundestag on skilled labor that was precisely about this, and the colleagues actually are discussing that right now. They're continuing. And the freight transport colleague has said that they have a difficult economic situation in logistics. So, of course, there is a need of truck drivers. Currently, the situation seems to improve a little bit, but this is not true at all for buses. There is the transport transition. We want to get people on the bus and away from their cars. We have the 49 euro ticket for Germany. That means that we have an increase in passenger numbers, which is good and which is something that I'm happy about every day. But it also means that we need drivers for our vehicles. When it comes to recruiting, then we do not have or offer a recruiting platform because I think this would go beyond the limits of the bus to bus. But we can take it that there will be many experts and providers of recruiting services. So that means that they represent the side of drivers, sometimes of drivers who come from abroad and they accompany them to Germany or organize their journey. So I talk to them on the phone on a regular basis. And of course, they're reaching out to bus companies too, and they will all be present there. So, of course, I always tell them to visit the bus2bus because they will find all the bus companies and all the operators and everybody running buses in Germany. And of course, you also find people with a bus driving license. And then I think that's the opportunity to get in touch with each other. So I take it that at least in the networking part of the fair, a lot of recruiting will happen. Oh, I'm sorry, I muted my microphone. That's a classic mistake of online meetings, isn't it? Kerstin, you wanted to add something? Well, yes, something I have mentioned briefly before, and it's about fresh travel, for example, because fresh travel also fulfills the task of improving the image of buses and coaches. It can demonstrate that it's a modern, comfortable mode of transport covering all the ranges. And there are so many services now. For example, when it comes to the digital transition or the equipment design of buses, all this is a topic. And I think it is also an opportunity to tell people that it's an attractive mode of transport and an attractive job. And you can raise the awareness for the sector and the opportunities it offers. Okay, I think that answers the question. If this is not the case, then just ask again. There is another question, Kerstin, for you, I believe. A very nice statement. By the way, because there is a team telling us that they're looking forward to the bus2bus, but they also want to know how many bus operators you expect to show up there. So, how many have signed up and how many will be there? Is it only Germany or the neighboring countries too? Maybe you could say a few words about that. Well, of course, it's always a bit of crystal gazing at this point. Last year, we had 2,000 technical visitors, so to speak, and of course, we intended to grow. But it's really difficult to put a number on that. But our offer is covering a wide range. If you have not noticed that now, then you will notice it there. There is something for everybody dealing with buses and coaches. And when it comes to the international level, we said 20% of exhibitors and visitors, and then it was 25 and 30%, and now we're still seeing more and more international visitors, so 30+% of international visitors and exhibitors. Okay, that sounds great. And Stefan, a question for you. You have just said that it's important that it's not only the bus sector talking to the bus sector, but external people getting involved too. And I believe it's equally important to get out of the German bubble and take a look at other countries. What happens there? Maybe there's something you could copy, right? Well, yes, maybe. I think this could be helpful. I believe there are 2 or 3 panels that are held in English only, and these are panels with the leading international stakeholders in order to get an insight there. And that's very important for us because this is our sector. And if we stick to our own transport system, then I think we will leave a huge potential untapped. So as a researcher, of course, I take a look at gender roles or working patterns, technologies, and how it all changes. But topics such as environment protection and digital transformation and the likes. There are experts willing to share their knowledge with us, with the coach sector, with tourism, with OEMs. And this is precisely where the interesting topics emerge. And of course, we will follow up on them. We will try to create new formats for them, develop new concepts. And this is why, if it was only a German trade fair, we'd only have half the fun. Okay, thank you. And that brings us once again to networks and connections. This is what the Bus2Bus stands for. It's a great platform for that too. And I have a question for you, Thomas. Networking, for example, or connections between you and private companies. So how do you cooperate with private bus operators, bus and coach operators? Why is that important for you? And if it's not, why not? Well, I've already raised many different topics, and I believe it showed that this is about finding solutions together. Carsten, as you has just said before, with technology partners and research partners, but also within the sector, it's important for us to find solutions together. And I think there is a certain tradition to that. We are not doing that for the first time, right? We are cooperating in operations via contractors in both directions. And of course, it also has to be mentioned that there is the German Bus and Coach Operators Association, and there are other associations with which we try to cooperate and find common ground and develop ideas and solutions together. I think that's the only way. Okay, that's great. At this point, once again, I would like to ask the audience to ask questions. You have a panel of experts, so use the opportunity. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them now. Of course, we already have a few questions, and of course, there's a time limit, but we do still have time for more questions. And maybe with a view on the end of this roadshow event, maybe we could come up with conclusions. That's a question for all of you, by the way. We've already heard that buses and coaches are full of superpowers. They are sustainable, they are innovative, they are social. And there are many boxes that buses and coaches can tick. Prove me wrong, but sometimes I have the feeling that buses and coaches come with an old-fashioned, kind of ancient image. So what can we do, and what can the Bus2Bus do to correct this perception? Maybe, Kerstin, you can go first, then Christiane, Stefan, and Thomas. Maybe just a quick answer, because I'm really looking forward to your opinions. Well, I'm so fascinated by this mode of transport. And then there is fresh travel that I'm particularly fascinated by, because now you have a designed bus or coach that you can use immediately without needing an additional infrastructure. So that's an immediate contribution to climate protection and the mitigation of climate change. And this is what we're all fascinated by. And that's what fresh travel stands for. For me, that's what it's about. And maybe just one more thing. There is an award, by the way. Stefan has mentioned that, the Fresh Travel Award. So anybody who can make a contribution from tourism or entrepreneurs, OEMs, or companies coming from design or students of design. If you have an idea and if you want to cooperate and contribute to a great design, you can hand in your application until the end of February. The application period is still open. Okay, just a few more days to go. Thank you very much, Christiane. What about the image of buses and coaches and the contribution that the Bus2Bus Trade Fair can make? Well, the question of the image and this image discussion, well, I've been wondering for years because I do not understand. I really don't understand. And in my association, the BDO, we often discuss it. How can it be? What's the reason for people not seeing and understanding the potential of buses and coaches? I really do not understand. And I don't know. If I wanted to come up with an explanation, then maybe there are many directions to look in. Of course, we cooperate with many modes of transport, but the big competition is our passenger car. We've talked about urban and rural transport in Berlin. Of course, everybody takes the bus because without going by bus, what can you do? Of course, you go by suburban train or trams or subway, but of course, you also use the bus. I wasn't born in Berlin. I come from a rural area, and this is where I took the bus to go to school and to come back at noon. And that's what we had there. And when I was 18 years old, I bought a car and got my driver's license. And I think that's a bit of the problem. And for longer distances, you go by plane. Maybe this is changing for environmental reasons. And then there is the train system, but it comes with difficulties too. And before this backdrop, I really do not understand why people do not see how important buses and coaches are, but I realize that people are seeing this more and more. I've been in this business for several years, and years ago, the image was really bad of buses and coaches and public transport. Well, if it really is the only solution and you do not have your own car, and things have changed. Public transport has a positive image now. Well, the COVID pandemic, of course, caused a little dip because people were concerned about their health. They were wrong to do so, but as we saw in the end, because it was not a problem of infections there, but we, of course, had a dip, and then we were worried about post-COVID, what would happen? Would people ever go back to public transport and buses and coaches? And as we see, they do get on buses again because they realize what a great mode of transport it actually is. And I have realized that in political sector and the discussions we have that we're on demand.
Many more people approach us and ask us about it. How can we support buses? This was different some years ago, and I agree with Stefan, who just said, I don't understand it. Because we've been waiting for digitalization for so long. It's the same with the image of buses. We actually have now a good image, but we do have a lot of competitors as well. We need to say that. There are other modes of transport receiving state funding, aircraft, for instance, railways as well. So Flixbus, for instance, has to pay full VAT rate, and the Deutsche Bahn railway has to pay a lower VAT rate. So this is about the general conditions. And well, I've been talking at length already, but I had to go into the details given the question. Well, I have to say it was two questions actually. So Stefan, it's your turn anyhow, but you raised your hand already. Yes, I'm itchy already. I don't want to contradict. Although everything has been said, I think it's very important to highlight that there is a generational change in mobility with regard to many aspects. What used to be old-fashioned, conservative, the mindset was cars. This is opening now. There are younger people, more open-minded customers. This doesn't only hold true for buses, but the entire range of mobility. Mobility is so multifaceted now, and this can be felt not only in the urban, but also rural areas. It's wrong and erroneous to believe that the rural areas are not included. There are not many services yet, but they are being asked, and demand will only increase if we provide services. We can see this in the cities, in the suburbs as well, and we will see this in the rural areas in some years. We even see it today. Hence, buses will be in the limelight as part of the mobility of the future. Today, we still have fleet managers in the companies, and the fleet managers undergo further training to become mobility managers, because this is important for the employees, the workers. They don't want to have a company car any longer. They want to have mobility services, and I'm looking forward to that. Oh, we can tell, Stefan. I think a lot of things are ongoing. Question to you, Thomas, before we are going to have more questions. But Thomas, to you, image of buses, what can we expect? How do you see the bus-to-bus in this context? I try to be concise because I can subscribe to everything that has been said. I can confirm this also with my personal experience. I've witnessed the development of the past 10 years. It started with very rural areas, villages, further development of local public transport there. 8 years ago, people there said, it sounds great. Thank you very much for having come here to talk to us. But, well, we've got cars. We all have cars. We don't need a local public transport. And in the very same districts, what you can see now is that there are pilot projects, only pilot projects, but it's new types of mobilities dovetailed with the traditional services, and they create a true added value. It's a change of generation, as you said, Stefan. It's no longer the same politicians who've taken these decisions. An important change can be felt there. In terms of technology, a lot of things have been improved, and it's great that it goes down well with society, those who use it, those who order it. So I wouldn't really say that we are having an image issue with buses, because public mobility as a whole, and this includes buses, has been improved. The image has improved. And rightfully so. We see this against the backdrop of the issues we're discussing. Everything is more networked, closer, more digital. So I believe that we've shed off quite some of this old-fashioned image. And this moves back to what you said earlier. It's not about bus or trains or car sharing, it's about mobility. And if this image is improving, then everybody will benefit from it. So thank you very much. Looking at the questions we're still having and taking into account the time, I would like to go into the kind of finishing straight now. We've received some more questions. I think we can link them to a question to you, Stefan. We've received questions about points of contact for people setting up bus companies. And the question, how do you represent startups? Stefan, question to you, and what are you looking forward to? And I think you can combine these two topics. At the last Bus2Bus, we had, I think, 25 startups with their pitches in the classical format. And this time we've got such a full program that we redesigned it. We limit the startups to 15 allowed to pitch. So we curate the startups before the event. At the end of the first day, I think we've got 1.5 or 2 hours of startup pitches with a lot of perspectives, new founders who will talk about their multifaceted approaches. We've got a great startup, Jurinira Weidenauer, Pitzstetter from Berlin, Britta Lange-Stolle from Global Entrepreneurship Center in Düsseldorf. And I have to admit, I'm allowed to be there as well, so as to have one male perspective on board at least. But this is the meeting point where these startup founders can meet. They will have their own space, of course, where they can meet, where you can exchange, where you can decide on appointments. And maybe a small highlight, the winners of the Startup Awards will get an e-bike this year. They will be made available an e-bike, and they will get media coverage, which is taken for granted at the BUS2BUS anyhow, but I think this is a good communication platform for them to communicate their ideas. Thank you very much. I can say I'm also very much looking forward to be the host of this competition. I think this will be definitely a very special highlight. So as to manage to keep time, it will be a challenge, but it will be exciting. Christiane, a second last question to you, because I would like to give the floor to Kerstin for the closing remarks. With a view to the last years, we've managed some crises, COVID, for instance. So the situation could be better. What do you think? What is the mood at the moment? And what are the topics important for the sector at the moment? Well, it's really exciting because we are kind of getting out of the crisis mode again. 2 years ago, at the last BUS2BUS, we couldn't say that. And there is a new topic which wasn't important a couple of years ago, which is bureaucracy. Now, so we can see that there is more red tape. There are several draft bills which have been tabled. It's a bit too boring to mention them all, and they're quite a mouthful of wording. It's a bit boring to the listeners, but very bureaucratic topics for new regulations. And I think there's no reason for putting this burden on the shoulders of the companies. We're wondering why. And this is what companies are communicating to us. They do not stop their work. Of course, I'm always being asked about bankruptcies. There weren't any during COVID. The medium-sized companies are not characterized by this, by making the headlines, or you can not hear it on the television news. They die quietly, rather, and they say it doesn't make sense. I want my daughter to learn a good job. So it's a slow dying of the SME, the small medium-sized companies, but it is still very bad, of course. So it's one important topic where the companies say, well, I can't accept any more trips. I can't take part in tenders for local public transport because I don't have the drivers. And on top of all of that, there is this added bureaucracy. The company owners need to dedicate their time to make photocopies, to send things off, documents need to be sent off. There are new duties, etc. So this will be a very important topic at the BUS2BUS. It's so acute that we can't really see it reflected in the program of the panels, but I'm really sure that during all the panel rounds we will talk about this issue, because this bureaucracy is really a massive burden for us. We could see the farmers' demonstrations as well. I don't want to talk about the contents of this, but one important topic of the farmers' demonstrations was bureaucracy, and the SMEs can't deal with that. They really get angry about it. So this is very important for our being together. We can't accept this any longer. And this is a new and very interesting topic where I think it will definitely be discussed at the panel discussions. I can imagine very well, since you also organize and curate the political panels. So you are at the lever, so you can place these topics there. This is very important so that we've got a competitive advantage. We've got the problem of bureaucracy everywhere, but we shouldn't put additional spanners into the works of everybody. So thank you very much to Christiane, Leonard, Kerstin, Kube-Erkens. Last question to you and a wrap up. I'm sure everybody who listened said, "Oh, that was really exciting. I want to go there." But maybe you can give us the facts and figures once again so as to round it off so that we can hear some facts and figures to conclude. Well, more than 10,000 square meters, more than 100 exhibitors, more than 100 or around 100 speakers, more than 90 sessions in the program. And we will have a top keynote every single day. On top of that, we've got the great program. It's a combination of a transfer of knowledge, hands-on knowledge, test drives, looking at things, talks with manufacturers, with newcomers. And I think this is absolutely mandatory to go to the exhibition, show everybody who's interested in mobility. We are very open-minded, and I hope we have managed to convey this message to you. Well, I can only agree. And I can mention that there's a code Berlin 50. This is the code. You will get 50% savings on permanent passes in the ticket shop. And at this point, I would like to cordially thank you. I would like to thank all of you for this very interesting discussion. We had some questions, but I think you who mentioned so many things during the keynote, that a lot of questions have been answered already. So thank you very much to Kerstin, Christiane, Stefan, and Thomas. Thanks for your contribution, and hopefully we'll meet at the BUS2BUS in 70 days' time, and we will then see you. And I would like to say see you soon and have a nice day. Thank you very much to everybody. Thank you. All the best to you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.